Well, hello, Spanish 2 parents, families, guardians. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you for listening to this presentation. My name is Josh Bodenheimer. I'm a Spanish teacher over at Downers Grove North High School. The focus of this presentation is to provide you with strategies to promote student success in Spanish 2 this year. You'll find my contact information. Here is my direct extension, and here is my email address if you ever need to get a hold of me. The purpose of this presentation is to give you effective strategies to use at home to help students memorize and retain vocabulary and grammatical structures, and provide students as well as you with the resources to lead to increased success in Spanish class and experience an overall elevated proficiency in the language in Spanish. A few disclaimers. Everyone learns in their own way and at their own pace. All students are going to acquire and learn language differently at their own time, and the way that they will do that will be different from others. One of the things I would like to emphasize this year is that to acquire language, students need to be spending at least 20 minutes per night practicing, reviewing the concepts we see in class. They need to be reinforcing it, and it does not hurt to go over old material. The expectation is that memorization and vocabulary memorization of grammatical structures is not the end-all be-all. In Spanish, we're going to be using our knowledge. We're going to be applying our knowledge to read, write, listen, and speak in Spanish. We're going to use what students review at home as a foundation to do things with language. And learning language is sequential. Language learning is sequential, meaning anything that students learn in Spanish 1 is most likely going to be recycled and used again in level 2, and what they learn in level 2 will be used in level 3, and so on. Therefore, it is imperative that students continuously review and retain previously learned material. So I wanted to start off with some electronic tools that students can use from their Chromebooks or at home to review material to gain that extra practice. The first tool is called Quizlet, and students are going to be using this to retain vocabulary. Each student has a login with Google, and they have access to all the vocabulary lists. So I'm going to show you quickly what Quizlet looks like. Students will have access. Say, for example, we're looking at Capítulo 2. Students will have access to all of the vocabulary on this list. And what they can do is they have a wide variety of options here. Learn, flashcards, write, spell, test. And they click on the option that they choose to review the vocabulary. So for example, here, if they click on flashcards,
La rutina diaria. To wake up. This is stretch. Estirarse.
students can actually look at vocabulary and memorize the vocabulary that way. Another helpful resource is a website called Conjuguemos. And we're going to use this in class this year to review verb conjugation. So I have created each of the students a login. The student's login is his or her ID number. Usually starts with a 5, number like 519. It's 6 digits. And the generic password is Spanish1 with a capital S. So students this year who have the opportunity, I'm going to log in so you have an idea of what this looks like. Students will have the opportunity in Spanish 2 to click on some of these practice activities which we have been going over in class. It's a nice review of some of the tenses that we've seen in class. So they can do this for 15 to 20 minutes. Another resource that is really helpful, especially if students are absent or are requiring some reinforcement, is a Spanish teacher named Senor Jordan. He's on YouTube, and he has a wide variety of videos that you can use to review concepts in class. So we're just going to go through this commercial real quick. But Senor Jordan For example, if we're going over the present progressive, Senor Jordan does a really nice job of talking about how the present progressive is formed, how it's used. So this is a nice reinforcement strategy for students as well. So what if we want students to use non-electronic strategies? First of all students this year are going to have access to a physical vocabulary list in their Google Drive. So for example, if we take this vocabulary list comes from Chapter 1, which has to do with airport. You'll notice the way that I make my vocabulary list, I give students 3 columns, one with the Spanish, one with the English, and one with the Spanish again. One strategy that students can use is this idea of 2-column notes. So most of the time in class, we will review vocabulary a wide variety of ways. Students will fill in the English. And what they can do is they can fold along these lines here to quiz themselves. So for example, if I fold along this line, students will not be able to see the English or the Spanish side. So they can flip the vocabulary list over and quiz themselves from the top to the bottom. So they would say, aeropuerto, airport. Flip it over and double check. They could also do it the opposite way. Once they have the English, they can produce the Spanish. So if they have the English over here, they can say airport, aeropuerto, flip over the page to double check that they have the right Spanish. The reason I leave this column is so students have the opportunity to also practice the writing of the vocabulary words. So if they have the English over here and flip this side over, without using this side, students can write the Spanish in to help them write. I also have a couple of C or no columns over here on the vocabulary list to help them figure out if the vocabulary that they, or the way they are assessing themselves is correct, and they can put a C or no in that column. Another way to help them is something called a 1-minute study technique. So basically students will print out the actual vocabulary list, so this list, and they will choose 10 words from the list to focus on. They'll set a timer for 1 minute, and they'll study like mad. Obviously, it depends on the type of assessment that they're going to have, but if they're going to be expected to use it, if they're going to be need to spell them, they should study the way that they know is a strategy that's going to be aligned to the test. So they're going to set a timer for a minute. The timer goes off after a minute, and what they'll do is they'll fold the Spanish under so they only see this part of the list. And then what they can do is they can write or say the words in Spanish as necessary, and then check the list over here, and then unfold and check the answers as necessary, or restudy and take on the next 10 words depending upon how they do. I would say students should really get about 9 or 10 of these words right before they know that they can move on. Another strategy that I suggest is students can actually make physical flashcards. So they'll put the Spanish on one side and the English on the other, and what they can do is they can put the words in a pile and test themselves. So if they get the word right, they can make a word, all the words that they're getting right in one column, in one pile, all the words they're getting wrong in another, and I'd really focus on those words that they're struggling with, so they have an opportunity to really understand what they need to focus on moving forward. Another strategy I want to suggest is something I call the tricky word tip. And basically, these are for those words in Spanish that are difficult to remember. A strategy that I like to use is something that attempts to create a sentence connecting the Spanish word to its English meaning. For example, if we take the word la maleta, okay, that's not really a cognate or a word that looks like it's English. La maleta means suitcase. So that would probably be really hard to guess what that means. So a strategy that I use with the students is look at the word maleta, for example. That works like the word mail in English. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to connect that English translation to the Spanish. I'm going to try to connect that English word to its Spanish translations, or its English translation. So for example, maleta looks like mail. Maleta means suitcase. So if I make some kind of a sentence that'll give me some nice way to remember what maleta means. So for example, maleta, that mail, there's the word mail, passenger has a suitcase, maleta means suitcase, over 50 pounds. And the students can continue to remember that sentence. That male passenger has a suitcase over 50 pounds. Okay, when I see the word maleta on a test, I can remember, oh yeah, maleta means suitcase, even though it doesn't necessarily look like the word suitcase. So it's more of a trickier word. We're going to practice this multiple times throughout the course of the year. Another resource I would like to bring to your attention is the idea of World Language Resource Tutors. We have student tutors that are available in the World Language Resource Center before and after school, or during students' lunch resource study hall periods. And really, students get to choose, they have the autonomy to choose how they would like their schedule to be arranged. They can meet with their tutors 3 days a week for 25 minutes. They can meet 2 days a week for 50 minutes. Again, that's a decision that's going to be made between the tutor, student, and obviously you. If you believe this would be an option for your student, please contact me via email. I listed my email at the beginning of this presentation, and I can look for that for your student. One thing I do want to emphasize is the fact that this is a commitment. This is a year-long commitment. So if students decide for 25 minutes on Tuesdays and Thursdays that they will be pursuing a tutoring arrangement, they are expected to come for the remainder of the year those days. It's not just a pop-in opportunity. So I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation. Please be on the lookout for a survey that I'm going to be sending out. The survey is going to allow you to communicate with me the strategies that have worked with your student, especially these strategies. Moving forward, I hope that this presentation will help your student experience success this year in Spanish. And I want to thank you for working together to ensure that. So thank you again for taking time out of your schedule. I hope that this presentation has informed you of some strategies that will be beneficial to your student, and is also providing you with some manners in which you can intervene and provide some opportunities for successful intervention. Again, thank you for listening to this presentation, and I look forward to working with you and your student this year. Thank you.